I wanted to highlight some of the benefits, and then I'm going to let Payam come up here and talk about some specific use cases that you can consider. But you know, for example, you know, some organizations deal with healthcare data that are protected by HIPAA and other regulations. If you're concerned about the type of data that's being processed on your IT, and you really wouldn't like people involved, a bot can process that data for you in a closed environment. It maintains compliance. Again, you're going to train that thing to do whatever you tell it to do, and so it will do what you tell it to do. If you tell it to do the wrong thing, it will do the wrong thing. So, you know, it'll be compliant with however you set that up. Quality and accuracy. You know, I think the average human is 92% accurate with data entry. We all transpose things. I mean, how many times have I gotten autocorrect wrong on my text message? But you know, there's an increase in accuracy due to the lack of manual data entry and the cutting and pasting and transposition errors for some of the class 1 bots. And then again, you reduce the need for rework, and that audit trail is fully auditable through the platform. Lower cost and speed to execution. I think we all are operating in constrained budgets, and the ability to increase throughput would be great. So this enables that technology, as I've mentioned, and again, it operates 365, 24/7. Employee satisfaction and citizen engagement are probably the two biggest outcomes of this, because you know, it's all about citizen engagement. That's why we're here today. That's why we're trying to talk about ways to innovate. So if we can figure out a way in our own shops to automate some of the things that we can automate, then the citizen engagement piece is just, it's a natural outcome of this because of the time and speed saved on this. So employee satisfaction and citizen engagement, I think, are probably the two most beneficial outcomes of automation. And so with that, I'd like to hand it over to Payam. Payam's going to give us, again, some specific use cases, both from a business side for one half of the room and for the IT side and the other half of the room to consider as we kind of look at the art of the possible. So Payam, I'll hand the clicker to you.
Thank you, Kirk. Well, no, when I first actually started learning about this, I was pretty excited because I was like, wow, so many use cases where I could be automating. And a lot of times when you compare this with your traditional IT, you know, automation, and some of these take millions of dollars or months, and this you're able to automate these use cases you never really thought about because of the value and the cost that now, you know, it's all brought in. Now you can actually automate with these tools. So that was pretty exciting. So, and hopefully, you know, we did a good job. You got a little bit excited. So let's go over some of the other use cases. We talked about citizen engagement. There are, you know, many other use cases around there, and we're happy to share others, you know, everything from social media mining. You know, we talked about chatbots, but as well, you know, where we're seeing, especially in the private sector, even government, you know, their organizations are automating with hundreds of bots. And what they're doing is in their back office. For instance, HR, they're automating, you know, when a new user gets onboarded, there are multiple accounts that you have to create an account for them. And that's been typically manual, so now you're able to automate. Or financial management, record to report. So, or invoice processing. So again, manual steps going from Excel sheet and doing any swivel chair, that's being automated. Or more complicated natural language processing around grant management, reading, you know, a number of documents, a lot of text in there, and now it's able to read it and understand it. Fraud and data validation. What we actually see in a really cool case was that instead of running a SQL to do standardize a field, they're running this because it's not, instead of going a back end where, you know, it has its own problems, you could do this from the front end. This is something that the business, again, can own and do. Now, on the IT side, there are also a number of use cases. I mean, think of, again, you know, you're doing a implementation. And you know, implementation, as you know, some of these can take years, right, and millions of dollars. So with this, you can actually get value right away. So again, it's a few weeks versus a few months or years to automate something. And they're also using, as part of the implementation, what I've seen in many agencies, that they go and hire temporary employees to copy data from their legacy system into a new system because it's hard to do that, or it's you know, the legacy system, it's hard to create an ETL process or something. So they've been using these tools to do that conversion. Interfaces, we talked about, you know, when, you know, you go through the web, and you could now create that interface a lot faster using this. dual entry. During turnover, I think Dale was pretty excited when we talked about this. Often you have systems running in parallel for maybe a year, maybe even more. Now you could, instead of having someone put it into the new system, then go back and put it into the other system as well, the old system, you could have a bot do that. So there are a lot of use cases, and then from an IT side, backups, password resets, disk space cleanup. Again, just a lot of different examples. We could go into details, but I think when you talk about the cost, and you really start opening up a lot of other opportunities for yourself. So, we talked about the use cases. We talked about some of the benefits. I like to go over just, we're consultants. We have a methodology on everything, but don't worry, I'm not going to go through the methodology. But I think at a high level, what you have is you start with creating a pipeline. That's what we typically go there and create. Let's identify this pipeline, and build a business case, start identifying a vendor, build a proof of concept, and start scaling it up. So what I like to do, maybe to help you, as if you do decide to go this route, some of the things that we've seen work very well, and so you can maximize your success. For instance, when you start identifying this process, like for class 1, you want to look at repetitive, logical, the rule-based processes, because it's, again, it's very manual-intensive task where you have. As well, think of end-to-end. Don't just look at maybe one manual-intensive. Try to look in your back office and other places. You'll start finding a lot of different opportunities out there. And the whole process doesn't have to be automated. It could be partial. So you could have someone typing in something, and then send it, a bot could take over, do the manual intensive task, and then maybe next day or a few hours later, you do the rest of it. And this is all scalable, so you could have 100 bots do one operation, so it's very quick, or you can have one bot do it. So it really depends of your, how fast you want to do this. Another thing we've seen is a lot of times with when they start funding this, and they get some of the privates, like they've got 600 to 800% ROI. I'm not saying you're going to get that as well, but it's pretty significant ROIs that you could get this. And so, especially in the private side, what they've done is start funding either just gain momentum by automating more processes, or maybe put that funding for more cognitive and some of the other class 2, class 3, which take a little bit longer, but you could get more value out of it. So they've started doing that. We talked about that this is a business-led opportunity, and again, because it's a very small footprint from an IT perspective, we have seen business lead it. However, what we have also seen is as you start scaling and going on more bots, it's important to include IT up front. And we're talking now to a lot of CIOs and helping them, bring this to the business, because I think, if you think about your business and how you have to be more agile and provide more services faster and make changes faster, this is a great tool to do that type of stuff. And so including IT up front and helping them, let them help you with the governance and security, that's been very beneficial. There are a lot of vendors out there. Vendors almost every day come up with different solutions, we go more cognitive. And this is, and I think as you will see, this is becoming kind of the trend these days. And so some people call themselves RPA, even though they're not RPA. So it's important to differentiate those vendors. And there are obviously other number of tools there that compare these vendors, and doing a POC does also help, and just really get a feel of it before implementing. And really, from your use cases, there are some that, as Kirk said, that record. Some of them are more Visio-oriented, possibly more scalable. So it's just different ways of doing this automation. Depending on the use cases, you might pick a different vendor. And as you get more mature with this, you want to figure out your operating model. Is it, do I want to do this, for instance, a managed service? Do I want to have a centralized center of excellence to do this? Do I want to do this by my business unit, have different people automate at their own office? So there are different ways, and it's better to think, start thinking of this up front rather than thinking of this later on. And obviously with this, said, no, I learned in a few days, but I think you probably need a few weeks to learn it. But just with any other tool, there's some training that's involved, so you got to put that into the consideration as well. And we talked about auditability, and something we've seen that's very exciting is that when a user goes in, you audit kind of the data. When the data changes, many systems audit data, but you don't really audit as much the flow of that user. So if you think of a business process, you have multiple branches, right? And now you can actually audit which branch, how often they took that, what was the percentage it went, and organizations are using that data back to get analytics and re-engineer the processes and make the processes better. And so we're seeing a lot of that, and that's something to think about as well. Finally, we talked about citizen engagement, how intelligent automation. As you really look at your roadmap of citizen engagement, and you look at what you're going to be doing, and other presenters are going to be talking to you about different things, I think that's where you got to look at your overall operating model, overall roadmap, and think where intelligent automation can drive, whether it's cost down, whether it's the speed or innovation. And so really, you got to look at your full roadmap and think where intelligent automation can fit and leverage it to your benefit. So I think we may have some time for questions, unless there's anything else.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that on that last slide. I mentioned before, you need to be on a transformational journey. I mean, this is not meant to replace, entirely a legacy system if you're looking to be on that transformational journey for citizen engagement, whether it's your digital transformation journey or an ERP transformation. The class 1 and class 2 is really intended, I think of it this way, you need to build the highway, you need to repave that highway. But in the meantime, you need something to fill the potholes, right? You got to make sure people can still drive on that highway, and you got to plug those potholes until you actually get someone in there to add a new lane and repave that thing. So for class 1 and class 2, mostly class 1, that can help you on your transformational journey to get you there a little bit quicker, and to focus your workforce on the value-add activities that you need, because we all have our normal jobs, and then, oh, by the way, we want to transform and innovate as well. So when am I going to get time to transform and innovate? So you really have to focus on how do I leverage my workforce more strategically? How do I remove the non-value-add tasks for my workforce so that I can get them more engaged? And oh, by the way, we've seen reports where morale is increasing, because I don't have to do that annoying report every week or every month that I used to do. I can do new things and I can get more engaged. So I think as you look at that transformational journey and innovation, I think you have to consider that this is one of the tools in your tool belt to use for that. And so consider that as you start to think about, when you go back to your offices today or tomorrow, maybe I can use this in my particular process. So just something to think about. It again, it's not a silver bullet, but it's a tool in your tool belt that you can use.
Right. Actually, another area that we've seen this is around aging workforce, and I know government, it's getting there, and so that's another way to really leverage it, enable the transition between your aging workforce to the millennial workforce to your new workforce, automating some of those mundane tasks that were left over.
At CalPERS, we did a major re-engineering project, and it was the second attempt. The name of the project was Pension System Resumption, and the word resumption means we didn't get it right the first time. Out of the 49 legacy systems that were part of the second project, they tried to do it the first time with only about 25 of those 49, and they could not get the other 24 that were left out to work with the new system. This tool would have solved all of those problems, right? So it is a strategic advantage now to know that if I have to re-engineer my legacy, and we all do, we can't stay on COBOL forever, that I now have options. Maybe I don't have to do big bang anymore. Maybe I could do a series of little bangs and still keep other parts of the system alive through RPA. The other thing that CalPERS decided to do when we finally had a awesome web app is we decided to get into citizen engagement and open it up to all kinds of channels like Twitter and Facebook and chats and you name it. And the volume that generated, even with our limited population of 1.8 million members, which is nothing like DMV's population of 25 million drivers, right? Or EDD's population of 4 million people on benefit status, it overwhelmed us. And we had two choices. Do we turn it all off and look stupid to our clients? Say, oops, my bad, we didn't really mean to let you Twitter and chat with us. Or do we throw bodies at it? And our answer was we had to throw more bodies at it, at an expense. Again, this technology would have allowed us to do a ton of that, or it would have allowed us to take bodies out of mundane areas and repetitive clerical areas and move them into customer service. So you have a lot of those options now, because citizen engagement is a demand, and there's a lot of gotchas having done it. And if you're serving millions of constituents, that gotcha is gonna be crazy. Okay, it is just gonna totally overwhelm, so you have to have a workforce that's ready to deal with all that.
Is this helpful at all?
Any questions? Again, this is meant to be an awareness. There's a lot to this. There's a myriad of technologies across those three classes that offer different things, different benefits at different costs. So this isn't meant to be one particular thing. It is a kind of an ecosystem of solutions that you can consider in the intelligent automation spectrum. So we offered you a hard copy of kind of the basics of what we talked about. I would also visit, just Google intelligent automation, and you'll find a lot on this. There's actually, we've got them on our sites, but a lot of vendors have, mainly for Class 1, but some Class 2, actual videos that you can watch on YouTube to see a bot in action. I'd encourage you guys to look at that, because what we find is some people have their, and I was guilty of this too. I had a hard time wrapping my head around this and trying to figure out the technology in action. So I'd encourage you guys to go check that out as well. And we've got a couple videos as well that kind of give this to you in a nutshell.
If you want to stop by our booth and talk about some use cases because you're not sure exactly where this might fit in to your agency or your department or your local situation, these guys are trained to help do some discovery on your behalf and kind of just talk about it and just show you the different possibilities that are out there. There's literally are unlimited possibilities for this technology. Any questions?
We've got a hot mic in the back ready to be used.
Does this sound interesting?
I tell you what, I'd like to automate some of my processes right now. So,
And you got to really think of this as, you got your own assistant.
yeah.
And that can automate and can do tasks that you just don't want to do.
And you can right size your organization from all the downsizing or you've had all those BCPs denied, and how do you still fulfill your mission? This is a way to get back to service levels that you haven't seen since '85.
And if you're trying to make a business case for this, and again, we're technology agnostic, right? We're there as your trusted advisor to get you the right solution and make sure it makes sense for you. And if you scale, you definitely got to look at a center of excellence type model to make sure that this is operating properly. But you really have to look at this holistically and think about ways across the enterprise to use this technology, because it is a bow wave that is coming. And if we don't do anything about the hiring freezes, the lack of I'll just say the workforce, there's just so many different variables that are, the supply and demand curves just aren't working in our favor, that we have to make a paradigm shift. And this is one way, just out of necessity, that governments need to look to innovate. So, as Dale mentioned, and Payam and I are going to be around for a little while, then we got to fly to Dallas for, guess what, an intelligent automation conference. So So we're really excited about this opportunity to talk to you guys today. We're excited to continue to engage in conversation about this. We'll be around today at the booths. If you have any questions you don't want to ask because of the hot mic back there, that's fine. But we're happy to answer any questions offline. And I'd encourage you guys, if you've come in late, to take some of the hard copies back with you, and we've got more at the booth as well.
Thank you.